So on this board we have all the legumes that were planted in the plots this summer. Starting with peas, this is a forage type pea which displays indeterminate growth, as you can see from the pods that are displayed, and also the flowers that are still happening. So this being indeterminate will grow until it gets too cold for further growth. Peas aren't known for their root growth, but we can see that we have a taproot, central taproot, with roots coming off of that. We're down probably 6 inches.
Peas grow best when seeded with something for them to climb up?
Yeah, we'll often see them mixed with an oak variety. So next we have a true low-growing white clover. You can see as it's growing out, it's sending down more roots. We can see a little bit of a nodulation happening on this native clover, and those are fixing nitrogen as they go along.
So this is one plant, and that was one plant. So if you're talking about how many tons of biomass from that OP mix, probably 3 tons maybe, with that much pea growth. Or something like this would be more like 1 ton if it was a monoculture, maybe less.
Moving up the line over here, we have what we call a Landino clover. So similar to a white clover in that it'll have a white flower, but you see a lot more top growth to a Landino type clover.
So this was probably 2 feet in the field, 2.5 feet?
That's correct. And we can see that we already have nodules growing. It's important to note that none of these legumes were pre-inoculated before planting, so this nodulation is just happening from the native population in the soil. So the history of this field is it was native pasture for quite a long time, and then 4 years ago they brought it into field production, and the first year it had strawberry nursery growing on it, and then it had a mixed cover crop growing in it the next year, and then this year we put our plots in it.
So if you were to inoculate these clovers, your pea would be a different type of inoculum than your clovers, which would be different than your vetch.
So having no history of peas in this field, we wouldn't expect to see a native population of that pea inoculum, so that's very likely that we wouldn't see any nodulation on the roots. So here we see hairy vetch. We see, even though it's a young plant, we do see quite a bit of nodulation occurring. The nodules on hairy vetch look quite different from those of the other legumes. They have a very different shape.
So here you can see this vetch. Vetch seeded in the spring, so it's kind of a warmer season legume. You want to wait until your soils are at least 10 degrees. So in the Annapolis Valley, that's about mid to late May. I would say late May to be safe. Seeded then and then left to grow all season can fix about 250 units of N, of which a lot of that is lost once it dies. But to your subsequent crop, you could probably get 70 to 100 units of N just from that hairy vetch alone. It grows best when seeded with a cereal for it to kind of climb up. It'll fix way more biomass. And here you can see the nodulation. So this was native inoculum. This was not inoculated prior to seeding. A lot of soils will have native inoculum naturally in the soil from hairy vetch's cousin tufted vetch, which is often a weed. But you can see these nodules are really quite impressive. Much bigger than you see on the other legumes. And if you split open that nodule, you'll see it looks like ground meat, kind of pink inside, and that's how you know it's actively fixing nitrogen.
If it's not fixing nitrogen, you'll often see it green on the interior, and this is also true of soybeans and other legumes.
Late seeded hairy vetch, so seeded say mid-August. If it doesn't flower before frost kill, it will likely overwinter.
So the last legume we have here is a red clover, a true red clover. You can see again it has a central tap root that's going down to quite a depth, and then the roots coming off the side. Already we see nodulation taking place on this young clover plant.
So this was seeded in mid-July, and now here we are in mid-September, and that's quite a bit of growth. And you'll often hear that first-year red clover won't really fix a lot of nitrogen, but that's, quite frankly, that's just not true. So red clover planted in the spring, left to grow for a year, and killed the following year will probably give your crop about 40 units of N.
It's very interesting that we're seeing this tap root. If you were to mix this with rye, you would have two different types of rooting structures. The legume or red clover going down to a greater depth than the rye, but the rye staying shallow, binding the soil together.